Okay, just think about this for a second, right now. How do you know for sure that you're not dreaming? I mean, really, how can you be absolutely positive that anything you're seeing or hearing is actually real? It's a wild question, right? And it's the very question that launched one of the most famous journeys in all of philosophy. So that's what we're diving into, René Descartes and his incredible quest to find one single solitary truth that he could not possibly doubt. A rock-solid starting point he could use to rebuild all of human knowledge from the ground up. You have to understand, Descartes was living in this age of massive uncertainty. All the old ways of knowing things were kind of falling apart, and he felt like he couldn't trust anything he'd ever been taught. So he decided to do something completely radical, hit the reset button. But to build a new, super strong foundation for knowledge, he first had to take a wrecking ball to the old one. He had to doubt literally everything. And he was so methodical about it. First up, he doubted his own senses. You know, a straw in a glass of water looks bent. Our eyes trick us all the time, so they're out. Next, he doubted physical reality itself. He said, look, there's no surefire test to prove you aren't in an incredibly vivid dream right this second. And then, for the final boss level of doubt, he imagined this powerful, malicious, evil demon whose only job was to deceive him about everything, even something as basic as 2 + 2 = 4. So, after taking that philosophical wrecking ball to reality, he's left with, well, nothing, a total void of uncertainty. Was there anything left standing? Could any single belief survive even the all-powerful evil demon? He realized, yes, there was one thing. Just think it through with him. Even if this demon is creating a total fake reality for him, even if every single thought he has is a carefully crafted lie. And that's it. That is the brilliant breakthrough. The very act of being tricked, the very act of doubting, proves that there has to be a me doing the doubting. You can't be fooled if you don't exist to be fooled in the first place. And this is it. This is the bedrock, the one unshakable truth he was looking for. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. It's so powerful because you can't even argue against it without proving it's true. The moment you try to doubt your own existence, you prove you exist to do the doubting. But here's where it gets really interesting. What did Descartes actually mean when he said, I think? Because it wasn't just about logic problems or math. Oh no, it was way, way bigger than that. For Descartes, that little Latin word cogito was huge. It basically covered the entire range of our conscious mental life. To say I think was really his way of saying, I am a conscious being. So yeah, thinking is all of this stuff. When you're doubting, you're thinking. When you're imagining something, hoping for something, even when you're just feeling happy or sad, that's all part of the cogito. It's the whole show happening inside your head at any given moment. And he took it a step further. He pointed out that we're aware of two things. There are the contents of our mind, the ideas, the pictures, the sounds. But, and this is the important part, we're also aware of ourselves performing the acts. You're not just a passive movie screen where ideas appear. You are the one doing the willing, the affirming, the doubting. You're aware of the doing. So great, Descartes has proven he exists as a thinking thing. Mission accomplished, right? Well, not so fast. In solving that one huge problem, he accidentally created another one, a massive one, that has haunted philosophy ever since. See, by starting with his own mind, Descartes locked himself into what we now call a representational theory of knowledge. It basically means we never get to see the outside world directly. Not the chair you're sitting on, not the screen you're looking at. All you ever directly experience are the ideas or representations of those things inside your own head. It's like we're all stuck inside our own personal movie theaters. And that's the huge isolating consequence. If the only thing you can ever be 100% sure of is what's going on inside your own consciousness, you're basically locked in your own skull. How do you ever prove that an outside world or other people really exist at all? And that leads you right to this philosophical dead end called solipsism. It's the scary idea that your mind is the only thing that actually exists. How do you escape the possibility that everything and everyone you know is just a projection inside your own consciousness? And you better believe other philosophers pounced on this immediately. Thomas Hobbes basically said, hold on a minute, Descartes. You proved there's thinking, sure, but why do you assume it's some non-physical soul doing it? Why couldn't the thinking thing just be your brain? And later, David Hume said that when he looked inside himself, he couldn't find a single self. All he found was a constantly shifting bundle of ideas, perceptions, and feelings.
Now, Descartes saw the prison he'd built for himself, and he desperately needed an escape route. He had to build a bridge from the island of his own mind back to the mainland of reality, and the material he used to build that bridge was God.
His argument, in a nutshell, went something like this. He's locked in his mind, so he starts looking at the ideas he finds in there. He finds one that's really weird, the idea of a perfect infinite being. He thinks, wait a minute, I'm imperfect and finite. There's no way I could have invented the concept of perfection or infinity on my own. So that idea must have been put there by something that actually is perfect and infinite. That means God must exist. And since a perfect God wouldn't be a liar, he can finally trust that the world he sees around him is, more or less, real.
Now, whether you think that escape route actually works, well, that's been debated for centuries. But his starting point leaves us all with a really deep, personal, and kind of unnerving question. If the only thing you can ever be absolutely sure of is your own private consciousness, how can you ever really prove that anyone else is conscious too? What real proof do you have?